Hello, and welcome to my fan commentary of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, the director's cut, directed by Nicholas Meyer. I'm going to start the movie with a countdown from three. So here we go. Three, two, one, start. Paramount logo. A Gulf and Western company. God, you gotta love that old Paramount logo. Now, to help with the synchronization or just a couple of visuals from the beginning, I'm just going to show some images from the film where they occur as I'm watching. So this is where we are right now, right at this moment. And this is where we are. Just to sync it up at the beginning, I'm not going to do this the whole commentary, just to set it up. Just to make sure everybody's synced up, anybody who watches. And I appreciate anybody who watches along with me. And if you want to leave any comments about the movie or my commentary, please feel free to do so. This film was released on June 4th, 1982. It's directed by Nicholas Meyer, who directed Time After Time. I believe he got famous when he wrote a Sherlock Holmes novel called The 7% Solution, which was adapted into a film for which he was nominated for uh, Best Adapted Screenplay. Of course it would be, because he's adapting his own book. But I'm not sure if he actually won that. Okay, it was only nominated. He didn't win for The 7% Solution. But Nicholas Meyer famously wasn't not famously. I mean, in the 23rd century, by the way, this caption, according to the commentary on the old DVD that I had, Nicholas Meyer put that in there for his father, just to let his father know like when it was taking place. And of course, we open on Spock. Now, because the rumors got out, oh, hold on. The no smoking sign at the background is hilarious. It gets taken out later. But when word got out that Spock was going to die, uh, what happens here, of course, uh, would alleviate people's anxiety because they figure, oh, his death was a fake out at the beginning. But yeah, some people were very upset about that, and even wrote in threatening letters. So there was always toxic fandom. That doesn't mean all fans are bad. It just means that a few of them are crazy, just like any just the rule of odds. In any group, there's going to be some wackos. By the way, these are like really super advanced special effects. Of course, Kirstie Alley, uh, known for Cheers mainly. She was also in the Look Who's Talking trilogy. Look Who's Talking Too, and Look Who's Talking Now with John Travolta. The third one was crazy with the dogs. Anyway, the first one was good. The second one was okay. It went downhill. She was also in the remake of Village of the Damned, co-starring along Christopher Reeves. Now, anybody watching this movie for the first time wouldn't necessarily assume that this is a simulation, but this Kobayashi Maru is a valuable test. And this is reused footage from the motion picture with the Klingon ships. Boom. Oh, there goes Uhura. Wow, they're killing off the whole cast this early? Wow, they weren't joking when they said they were going to kill Spock off. It's kind of funny, I don't know. Klingons don't take prisoners. He says a no-win situation is a possibility that every commander must face, but of course we learn later on that he does not believe in a no-win scenario. It's a test of character or something. I don't know what's going on. Of course, it's the same set basically as the first movie. It's lit very differently. It's got a more submarine look and it's more nautical. It's Nicholas Meyer was inspired by Horatio Hornblower, and of course Nimoy didn't want to do this movie, and there was like 5 different versions of the script. One of the versions had Spock die really early, and Harve Bennett and the other guy, God, his name is escaping me. Uh, Jack B. Sowards wrote the movie, and then there were 5 different versions of the script. Nicholas Meyer said, "We'll take elements from all 5," and he in 12 days or something, he wrote the script, the rewrite, which is the movie that we see. And Leonard Nimoy read it on a plane and really liked it, but of course they would have second thoughts about permanently killing off Spock. One of those, there was a test screening, didn't work out well. People left very downtrodden, and what they did was they added some hope at the end with Leonard Nimoy doing the voiceover. Space: The Final Frontier. I know it's futuristic, but this apartment looks so 80s in itself. But I like the little touches out the window. You kind of see the city twinkling in the background. There's one line here added into this director's cut, which is not all that different from the theatrical cut, except for Scotty's nephew is more of a character in it. I like the elevator going up in the background. That's a nice touch. Romulan ale, baby. He's allergic to the stuff that would make his eyes better, hence the excuse to have Kirk wear glasses in this movie. I'm listening to this with headphones on, so I never heard the ticking clock before. I'm hearing a ticking clock. I like how Kirk has a bunch of old ass guns and like armor. That is a nice fireplace, I must say. You're hiding behind rules and regulations. Who am I hiding from? He's hiding from himself. God damn it! Don't you realize? Of course, this movie is about getting old and accepting your age and all this, and yeah. Yes, he always needs to get back his command. Whenever he's out of that chair, he's not complete. So Kirk is supposed to be 52 in this movie. It takes place 12 years after the events of the first movie. And this is Paul Winfield, who played uh, Darmok in the episode Darmok from Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm pretty sure this is just the Enterprise set rearranged. It's interesting that how they have Chekhov now as a first officer on the Reliant. So Carol Marcus, played by BB Besh. Uh, I haven't really. There's nothing that comes to mind in terms of other roles. This the guy who plays what we're gonna find out. We don't know yet in the story. If you're, but this is Kirk's ex, and this is his son, Junior. What's his name? David. David, uh, played by Merritt Butbrick, who appeared in TNG, but yeah, he died uh, from complications of AIDS. Symbiosis was the episode TNG that he was in about the the two guys who are addicted to the drugs, and yeah, it's a metaphor for well, it's pretty on the nose about addiction. So this is them on a set with some like optical effects for the creation of the wind, I suppose. The environmental suits are pretty well designed for the time. And when I first saw this, I didn't realize it was a sequel to a original series episode, Space Seed. I discovered that much later. But this, I think, was the second or third. It's a toss up between Search for Spock and this one. But I'm pretty sure this is the second one Star Trek movie that I ever saw. First one being The Undiscovered Country. USS Botany Bay. And they kind of do a retcon here, I suppose, because Chekhov wasn't part of the crew, or wasn't at least seen on screen during the events of Space Seed. Let's just say he was in some. He was there. He was in some deleted scenes, just for the sake of continuity. So he removes one glove, but not the other. I'm just gonna give you an image to show you where we are now in the scene. Right at the reveal of Ricardo Montalban as Khan, was famous at the time for A Fantasy Island. He was also in one of the Planet of the Apes movies. I believe it's Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Just giving you some visual references here. This is where we are now in the film. He remembers Chekhov. I remember you from those deleted scenes. You were there. You were there. Criminal. So apparently, when Ricardo was doing this scene the first time, he came on a little strong, a little, and Nicholas Meyer said, don't give him your best, because then you have nowhere to go. So I think he played it a little bit more reserved in this, and he sees anger seething and I think it works really well this way. Although I'd be curious to see like all the outtakes of this movie. Wouldn't it be about 300 years, not 200? Now they've retconned that timeline in modern Trek. So Khan in 1996 wasn't even born. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, they retconned him to like be born later. I like how he's so angry and then he just calms himself right away. 300 years ago. I remember 1996 and I don't remember any of that. Any of this con business. I think it happened. It's pretty strong. Uh oh. No, wrong image. Sorry. Yes, the death of his beloved wife is depicted in a audio drama. It is currently, as of October 27th, uh, still being released. It's almost over now. And this image is right here. Right here. That image of Chekhov. Just should probably do this on Twitch where you can play the movie, but whatever. Not quite domesticated. This is a crazy effect coming up here. I mean, it looks phony, but the practicality of the effects at the time were pretty good. That's better. He looks so relaxed. By the way, Nicholas Meyer was always asked, was that Ricardo Montalban's real chest? And yes, like he told a lot of people, it is, it is. He's going to ask that question all the time, apparently. Kirk wearing his glasses. Cinematography here is by Gain Rescher. But noticeably different in this movie is the score, which is by James Horner now. And it's not a bad theme. It has those, and those Star Trek themes within it, but there's a kind of romantic tone to it. This looks like it's just recycled from the motion picture. Could be wrong about that one. This is the first time we see coming up here is Scotty's nephew, who was largely cut out of the theatrical version, which of course Nicholas Meyer didn't like, and it really makes very little difference. So yeah, why take that out? Mr. Peter Preston. And it's first training voyage, so he's certainly gonna die. So they spoke Vulcan in the first movie and the second movie, and I don't think you hear it in any other Star Trek movie. I could be mistaken, but like that's the last time you ever hear Vulcan language in probably anything. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but like yeah, that's it. By the way, Nicholas Meyer went on to co-write The Voyage Home, and he also directed The Undiscovered Country, which was the original title for this movie, was The Undiscovered Country, but he didn't get to use it. Uh, and The Undiscovered Country was the last movie that Nicholas Meyer ever directed. Later. The Enterprise glory shots. You gotta have those. Great model work, by the way. Like, I miss this practical era when, like, they were physical objects. And, of course, more larger objects for the close ups and smaller models for the wider shots. Kirk's utter joy of returning to the Enterprise bridge is, I mean, he's still an admiral. He only gets demoted later, but it's totally logical that Spock is the captain. Probably reuse shots from the motion picture, it looks like. Yeah, definitely. The space station was reused from the motion picture. They turned it upside down. That's what I heard. I heard from a friend. Some guy told me that. And notably, this this actor who plays David, he looks like William Shatner a little bit, but he obviously looks more like uh, BB Besh. I don't like this circular screen. Some older science fiction, they thought circle screens were gonna work. Yeah, there's a few extra shots in this scene, a couple of alternate shots that differ from the theatrical cut. Yes, it is a regular. He should get more fiber. What a delayed reaction. As if you couldn't tell he was lying there. Comes from James T. Kirk, yeah. This is a bit of an awkward scene, but yeah. I cheated. He's not going to tell her that. You may ask, but I'm not going to tell. Humor. It is a difficult concept. Frickin' Vulcans, man. Lighten up, will ya? McCoy always gets the best comedic lines, and it's not to say other characters don't, but yeah, he has some of the best dialogue. Who's taking Genesis? Now, coming up is one of the most advanced, well, the most advanced special effects sequence for its time. With the. Is it coming up in this exact scene? I'm not sure. Oh no. That special effects sequence comes up later. Now back on the station here, this shot that's spinning around them right now is an alternate shot from the one in in the theatrical cut. Sorry, I'm just trying to get his image prompt up, so just so you know what I'm talking about. I won't show every image of the film. It's just for slight visual reference. By the way, the 4K version looks so good. I watched the DVD the other day, and it's so dark and contrasty. But this scene coming up here with Spock, this scene in Spock's quarters, that mirror is something I've seen people have uh, in like their house, like hipster type people. So I'm going to stop sharing because this is not working. Oh, the classic line: "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the one." God, classic stuff. This is the origins of all that. The OG crew, man. Nothing beats it. Some could say TNG, but TNG didn't do as well in the movies. They certainly did not. By the way, we're at the 39-minute, 30-second mark in the film. And this is where it finally starts to ramp up a bit. They got to go to Regular One, man. He's got to meet it. He's got to meet his son. By the way, Carol Marcus and her pregnancy are referenced in Strange New Worlds. Uh, Paul Wesley plays Kirk in that show, and he talks about Carol and her being pregnant. And I think David would have been born in 2260, 61 or something like that. So it all adds up. This is 2285 right now. So much for the training crew. Oh, whoa. What was that? So I noticed there's a lot more light on this set than there is on the Enterprise. Well, when they film it as the Enterprise bridge. This is where you find out that it's about more than just he tasks me. He tasks me, and I shall have him. Classic moment right here. The terrorist maelstrom, perdition's flames. Before I give him up. Just gonna bring up the visual reference again. Hopefully this works. Malfunction on me just a minute ago. I know this is an audio commentary, but I want to give some kind of visual reference for anybody who's actually physically looking at the screen. And I believe there's also an added line in this scene that differs from the theatrical cut after they. Absolute state of the art special effects we're about to see. A pioneering moment in visual effects history. And I'm glad it happened in a Star Trek movie. Not that it wouldn't have. I think Future World, sequel to Westworld, did like a CGI hand thing. I think that predated this. But yeah, the effects are brilliant for the time. This shot is coming up. Wait, I'm behind. This shot is happening right now. There you go. Yeah, it looks so good in the 4K. Even though the effects are. Oh. But yeah, that's amazing. How they were able to illustrate that point in the film so effectively. Fascinating. It is. And the whole concept of the Genesis device is pretty cool. Looks like an all water planet, but yeah, whatever. We'll forgive that. Literally Genesis. Yes, that's right, Spock. The power of God. I love this line. According to myth, the Earth was created in 6 days. Now watch out. Here comes Genesis. We'll do it for you in 6 minutes. I love. You must learn to govern your passions. They will be on your undoing. It's equivalent to the motion picture line where he says, "Your predilection for irrelevancy, as your predilection for irrelevancy dictates." Just like that Spock McCoy banter is just classic. He always resorts to race. He's like, "You green-blooded son of a." So the last commentary I did was for the motion picture. I did that with my friend Marcelo, and these videos don't get any engagement. People will pop in and out during the live, but a couple of people seem to watch the whole thing. But I don't get any likes or anything like that. It's kind of sad, which kind of gives me the freedom to say whatever I want. I don't really care. Very few people will hear it anyway. Yeah, don't question the Admiral, my god. I like how Spock corrects her, like, don't be giving Kirk suggestions right now. It's like, read the room. I hope to be able to get away with this, just showing the bottom half with the subtitles. Just so anybody who's watching visually can just get a sense for it. It'll probably be wiped off the internet now because. So this kind of feels like the climax of the movie, which is it is not. It's like totally the middle point. But this is where the Horatio Hornblower kind of ships at sea element comes into it, because the ships are like large lumbering things in the sea, and the level of detail that is achieved through the battles, like the you actually see the interior blowing up and stuff like that. Uh, Very effective, and of course, Scotty's nephew pays the ultimate price. Well, Kirk is pissed. We don't have a few minutes, Scotty. Now this is where these heavy, like thick uniforms are a bit silly because he has to undo the thing because he's too hot. But of course, I guess there's fire and explosions and electricity everywhere. Well, yeah, this movie is dark, dank, and sweaty in these parts, and it's very effective. It really feels like a nautical kind of submarine feel to it. The way Ricardo Montalban is playing it so cool here is it's really why he's probably the best Star Trek antagonist in the films. Classic. This is such a classic movie, regarded as the best of the bunch by a lot of people. Some people really love, I think, three and four the most, or six. Those seem to be the ones that people gravitate toward. And in terms of TNG, it's probably First Contact, and that's it. Because the rest are, you know, not great, but memorable in its own way. Even Insurrection, you're spending time with the people you grew up watching. Something special about that. You might not appreciate it at the time, like I didn't appreciate Nemesis or Insurrection, uh, but now I do. I'm a fan of them all. To a much lesser extent, Into Darkness and Section 31. But still, there's always room in my heart for good and bad Trek movies. And the more time that goes by, the less these movies are bad in any way. Like they're cherished. I cherish them. Uh, 1, 5 generations, you know, doesn't matter. I may not like certain parts of them. An exciting scene that would, if you weren't paying attention to the time and it was the first time you were watching, it would fool you into thinking that was the climax of the movie. It's only an hour in, and it's this movie's great. Why does everybody, people point this out? Why does Scotty go right to the bridge with his nephew and not like straight to sick bay? It's like, dude, you could have saved him if you'd gone straight to sick bay because he's still alive by the time Kirk gets there. But yeah, movie was really effective at showing like the battle damage and the human cost or the humanoid cost of being on missions like this. So this is the extended scene in the director's cut, uh, where you see a little more of the nephew's face, but it means more now because there was the setup when Kirk meets him during the inspect, and Nicholas Meyer really wanted that element left in the film, and it really doesn't make too much sense why they would cut it out, because it's the cuts in this compared to the theatrical cut are minor. If you just let Meyer do what he was supposed to or what he intended, it's no big deal. Like what? So the director's cut in the case of movies versus their theatrical cut, this is slightly different but better, and it doesn't do much to mess with the original version. What what they intended to film and put into the movie is pretty much what you get. It's just minor things here and there. Like the blood on the tunic that stays on the tunic for most of the rest of the movie is a great touch. Just a reminder of the human cost, as I said before. Excuse me. So this is kind of where the movie becomes a bit of a horror film. Uh, this was PG, by the way, which differed from the motion picture, which was rated G, and for good reason. Mainly due because there's some gore effects on people, but the part coming up where McCoy discovers the body hanging is crazy. This is really a pretty good looking science fiction movie too. How is there a rodent in there? It's like in the movie Alien movies. There's rodents, and like that's why they have the cat there, I suppose. So I don't think the PG-13 rating was uh, around yet, because Raiders of the Lost Ark, I believe, inspired them to do a PG-13 rating, and that also came out in 1982, I believe, 81 or 82. So basically, movies that weren't rated R and uh, but but had some adult things in it, like a bit of sexuality or violence, uh, but it wasn't that bad, they would just give it a PG. Like parents guide your kids. You should know if your kid can handle this kind of thing. Then you go like 10 years later or so, and you get Jurassic Park, and that's like the perfect example of a PG-13 movie, one that's like right in that sweet spot between R and PG. Not that the ratings matter too much when you're an adult anyway. CTL for 5. He put creatures in our bodies to control our minds. Remember when I was a kid when you would see like Walter Koenig or James Doohan in interviews, they didn't have the accents. I was like, oh, just kid, you just assume. I don't know. You're like, wow, they did an accent in that thing. William Shatner was very familiar to me as a child, not only through Star Trek but through a show called Rescue 911. Paul Winfield was in the Terminator, and James Cameron's The Terminator from 1984. Did they ever eventually pick up the Reliant crew? Is that mentioned in the movie? I can't recall. I can't recall. Yeah, listening. I can see why people thought that was a fake chest. If you don't hear from us, there won't be anybody behind. Little do they know that Paul Winfield is still under the control of Khan. Genesis. By the way, in Picard season 3, we see the Genesis 2 device. So there was a second Genesis device after this. He realizes that's his son's great acting there. He's like, "This is David." Oh, is that David? Yeah. So, so David doesn't never saw a picture of Kirk. What's on the go there? Like, I don't understand. I fully don't understand the. You know, Kirk and Kirk and Doctor Marcus were together. They had the son. He wasn't around, so like he never met him. But David never saw a picture of him. Didn't look that up on the space internet. Yeah, like Genesis is secondary on Khan's like to-do list. He wants to kill Kirk first and foremost, but I'm glad he can't do it. It's a pretty gruesome thing where he turns the gun on himself, but very powerful scene in the movie. Ramps up the tension and the action. Great performance. This shot coming up here where they zoom in on the air looks very phony, but it's a good gore effect nonetheless. I mean, anything in the air is like cringy, you know. It just makes you squeamish. That's yucky. Like this is the moment of the film. You, you manage to kill just about everyone else, but like a poor marksman, you keep missing the target. The way he says that, it's so funny. Yeah, he's just like, I'm gonna steal Genesis and I'm gonna maroon you here, and presumably you're never gonna get out. And of course, one thing about this movie is the fact that Shatner and Montalban never actually acted together on screen. They're all doing it remotely, but it works. Like Kirk's lines were spoken to Montalban by a script girl, uh, and he had to act against that, which he thought was a challenge. He liked the script girl or whatever, but this feels like a real interaction between two people remotely, but it's complete illusion. And of course, the famous Khan moment, which has been parodied in countless things. If the layman thinks of Star Trek, they might think of that moment if they don't know much else. Well, you see, Carol, there was this. episode of our old show called Space Seed, and that's where we met Khan. He went off with MacGyver's, and she became his wife. But the planet got all messed up, and she got killed by some like creatures, and now he's really, really mad at me. He doesn't like me very much. This Khan feller. I like how she adds that detail. Just gives it that little bit of verisimilitude to the story. Like, you can imagine some guys in spacesuits spending all this time digging this place out. Presumably, he's met David as a baby. I would assume. I don't know what happened, but they don't go into great detail about it. See, I like how the story has put Kirk in what is right now a no-win situation. They're stuck there. They can't communicate. He told Spock to like run off in an hour. So okay, here we get some explanation. Why didn't you tell him? Okay. Such a great scene. I love this line coming up. It's a man out there I haven't seen in 15 years who's trying to kill me. You show me a son that's happy to help him. My son. It's so good. I wonder how many takes this took. I've old. Oh, God, such a great line. And at the end when McCoy asks him, "How do you feel?" He says, "Young." It's just God. Script and the story and the movie as a whole, it's just so good. It's a classic sci-fi movie as well as arguably the best Trek movie. And it takes place in a time in William Shatner's career where he's in his 50s now. He's getting up there. And in the motion picture, he actually plays younger than he is. So that's kind of interesting. I guess. I don't know. Is that interesting? I like the concept of about what this the concept of this place, but the visual representation looks very matte painty. It looks very fantasy. And I know Nicholas Meyer wasn't probably one of the few things in the movie visual effects wise, like that waterfall. He didn't like that. He didn't like how that turned out. And I get it. It's the most kind of artificial, weird looking uh, shots in the movie, but it does well to illustrate the point of that they could probably live there and sustain themselves off of this created land and vegetation, I suppose. Now they're doing that thing in movies when it looks like there's like a thin layer of Vaseline over the lens. It's like a soft filter, especially in this shot right here with Kirk. Just has that hazy kind of look. You got a commendation for cheating. Wait, how did? Okay, so this this is I don't know what to say about this. It's kind of cute and funny. I don't know. It's like let's get to going. Put on our fancy new uniforms without the bloodstains. Commentary I find is a little bit more difficult without a partner, but hopefully someone will join me for future installments of Star Trek movie watch-alongs. Really, it's never a bad day when you're watching one of these movies. Sit down and enjoy something you've probably seen 100 times, but perhaps you notice something new in it every time, or see it in a different way. Again, graphics that are just super cool and advanced for their time. It's so interesting how fast that kind of thing evolved in like 15 years from this point. That only 11, 12 years later, you would have movies like Jurassic Park and Dragonheart, uh, fully CG characters and creatures. The one thing I don't, the one thing I miss, and the show The Orville kind of did that in the early seasons, I believe, is using practical models. Practical models are really cool to see because it's a physical object that's being filmed, and it's always going to feel a little bit more real. It's not to say that you can't do realistic uh, looking ships in CG. One of the advantages is you have with CG is the control of lighting over the object. And what you find in some of these movies is that these models, while they look very good, are a little too well lit or not completely lit the right way, uh, given certain shots. Now we're getting into the final conflict of the movie, where Khan destroys the Enterprise and wins all. It goes back and conquers Earth. Yeah, in his dreams. He's not going to get that far. He's diabolical. And he's smart, but he's not as good as Kirk and the crew. Nebula penetration. Uh, I like the way the nebula is done. However, I do like further label adaptations of nebulas in the shows, like TNG or Voyager or something like that, just because they had the technology to make them look better. It's not to say that there wasn't great artistry in these matte paintings and plates that they're shooting, but by the way, this movie, especially in Red Alert, is just super red, super red, and sometimes a lot of red on screen doesn't look good in some formats. For example, the bridge in these scenes on the DVD look just so terrible. and they don't look all that better here. That saturation is just, it's one of the things that didn't age very well, or just wasn't a. No, sir. Damn you! He's a madman. He's obsessed. Mutara Nebula. That's not my favorite nebula. Not my favorite. I couldn't actually name any other nebula in Star Trek, but you know. I love how static in sci-fi movies, like especially on screen, are always the kind of static you have at the time. Like these movies had TV static, and nowadays, if you see something on screen that's glitchy, it looks like digital static. You know, like kind of frozen pixels, and it's Horatio Hornblower in space. One of the writers of this movie, Harv Bennett, uh, really loved a New York Times review of this film. Uh, what was her name? Oh, Janet Maslin. And he loved the opening line of the review. Now, now this is more like it. After the colossal big budget bore that was Star Trek the Motion Picture, here comes a sequel that's worth its salt. The second Star Trek movie is swift, droll, and adventurous, not to mention appealingly gadget happy. It's everything the first one should have been and wasn't. And that's just the opening paragraph. As the title suggests, Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan has a much stronger plot than its predecessor. That helps, but it's not the only improvement. This film also has the gamemanship that the first one lacked, a quality that helped win the Star Trek television series its amazingly devoted following. Maybe just that there are more and brighter blinking lights on the control panels of the Starship Enterprise this time, or that the costumes are so much cleverer, or the special effects are so good that they don't call attention to themselves. Perhaps it's the directorial switch from Robert Wise, who directed the Hindenburg and The Sound of Music, to Nicholas Meyer, director of Time After Time, that has brought the material more pep. In any case, this is something that has mostly assuredly gone right. In addition to its daring do, Star Trek II, which opens today at Lowe's State and other theaters, also quality of a sentimental journey. Here they are again, William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelly, and the rest of the crew, 16 years older than they were when the television series began, still playing the roles for which they are best known. Mr. Shatner's Captain Kirk is an admiral now, given to ribbing the young trainees and wistfully saying things like galloping around the cosmos is a game for the young. Mr. Nimoy, aka Mr. Spock, now has a pointy eared protege, a staggeringly competent young woman named Saavik, played by Kirstie Alley, with whom he converses in their native tongue, which is Vulcan. Admiral Kirk, Saavik confides to Spock, which what she expected. He's so human, she says. Nobody's perfect, Spock replies. This passage is translated from the Vulcan by subtitles. Anyway, the article goes, I don't know, I should read the whole thing. Get back to the freaking movie here. By the way, the DVD of this movie is the only Star Trek, well, one of the only Star Trek things I have on disc. I actually have the first two seasons of TNG on Blu ray and 2009 Star Trek on DVD as well. But in the DVD of the director's cut, which is so old now, I got it so long ago, uh, there is commentary by Nicholas Meyer, who is a brilliant poet and does the best commentary I've ever heard. And there's a text commentary by Michael Okuda, which when you watch the movie, it just text appears on the screen of Michael Okuda's notes about what's going on the technical basis or something. Or great scene, great effects there. Dated but very effective. Uh, this began the trope of when the bridge gets fucked up, there's going to be a lot of wires hanging from the ceiling. They step. If you will indulge me, while this is happening, I want to read the part of that review that talks about Khan. Most fun of all is Khan himself, played by the classiest of comic strip villains by Ricardo Montalban, who really is something to see. With his fierce profile, long white hair, manful delicatege, and space-age jewelry, Mr. Montalban looks like either the world's old rock star or hippest Indian chief. Either way, he looks terrific. Every bit as happily flamboyant as the first film's characters, notwithstanding the beautiful bald Persis Kambata or drab. It is not necessary to have followed Star Trek lore any too faithfully to understand some key things about Khan. He has been frozen cryogenically in the 20th century, banished to a remote planet, and deprived of Mrs. Khan. He blames Kirk for all of these injuries and plans to get even with the aid of a secret weapon that, by the standards of movies like this one, has a modicum of nasty originality. You see, the one remaining life form on the barren planet to which Khan was banished is some special effects cross between a tortoise and a crustacean. It has scorpion-shaped babies that can be deposited by someone as sadistic as Khan in an enemy's ear. He says their young enter through the ears and wrap themselves around the cerebral cortex. This has the effect of rendering the victim extremely susceptible to suggestion. Khan says is yeah. So that review that talks about Khan, the review of in the New York Times that Harv Bennett really loved. Now you got to realize a lot of people who were worried about Spock's death when they first watched this in theater, I'm sure not everybody was fooled, but where they fake killed everybody off earlier, this was kind of out of their minds. And his death coming up in a bit, it was like a holy shit shocking moment that perhaps people are just not even considered after the fake death, that they would then really kill him off, and then really not really, because Harv Bennett and Leonard Nimoy were a bit worried about doing this, so they devised the whole McCoy remember thing. I love that. Are you out of your Vulcan mind? He tricked you. He tricked you, McCoy. Now, although when they did this, they didn't quite know what it meant. In Search for Spock, they turn it into the Katra, the living spirit uh, of Spock. And then conveniently in Star Trek 3, his body is recreated and aged up, by the way, aged up conveniently to the point where he would have been. So there you go. Perhaps even older. Maybe the new Spock that we see in Star Trek 4 is aged up more than Leonard Nimoy. Just excuse that Nimoy can age along with his character, and of course Vulcans are meant to live so long. If you were 75 or 80 years old as a Vulcan, you would only look like you were 30 in human, uh, in the human equivalency of that. I think Spock's going to be okay. I think he can recover from this. I don't think this is a huge problem for him. I think he's going to make it. I love getting there. That's what a real Starfleet officer does. They sacrifice their own safety and life for the sake of their crew. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. Well, that's it. Roll credits. The task is done. Khan is dead, and there's nothing more to be explored in this movie. It's a pretty cool effect, by the way. Pretty cool effect. A lower budget sci-fi movie. The effects were great overall for a movie of this budget at the time. It's funny because you look at this movie, the bridge is always really dark, and as soon as it cuts to 3, which is pretty much picks up where this movie left off, it's like they turn the lights on. Like everybody just turns the lights on. It's so much more brighter. Like again, Nicholas Meyer wanted that nautical feel. Uh, the old Horatio Hornblower stuff mixed with like Hunt for Red October, that kind of feel. And sometimes actors do their best acting in confined spaces. Classic shot. Classic shot. Wow, one of the most emotional scenes in Star Trek history. It was completely undone in the next movie, but that's forgivable. I'm sure some people were pissed. Like, you put us through that just to bring him back. But then again, a lot of the audience responded well to the voiceover at the end, which brought even more hope that he might be back. Leonard Nimoy doing the Space, the Final Frontier, the whole thing. It was. This is crazy. It's going to bring a tear to me eye. Wow. William Shatner thought it would be a better idea if this glass was not completely transparent, but like slightly opaque. And he joked about like it would have worked better if he just saw his kind of shadow and not his face. But this is better. This is so much better. Your friend. I love the way he says that. Your friend. Oh wow. Like this, I've seen this so many times, but every time it's like it evokes kind of nerdy emotion that was completely desecrated in Into Darkness when it is spoiler Kirk that dies and Spock screams Khan. I wanted to leave the fucking theater. I wanted to get out of there and say F this movie up its. Anyway. I like the crack in his voice there. Human, and he can't say it. Can barely say it. Great take, great acting on Shatner's part. Get a little tear from Kirstie Alley. So Vulcan showing some emotion. Wow, amazing. She's fully Vulcan. It's pretty impressive, I guess. Great looking shot though. And the body and the thing, and they shoot him out into the Genesis planet. I guess cool, whatever. But I'm pretty sure Savick. What were the Vulcan customs on like your kid dies? Wouldn't do they bury the dead or what do they do? Is this okay? If you're on a ship, they'll shoot you out the thing. It's all just more symbolic than logical, this kind of thing. But of course, he has to get reborn on the planet. Amazing Grace. Wow. This movie also, this is a great denouement as well. Like, this is such a well constructed movie. It's, man, the 80s were a great time for movies. Like, they made them really well, a lot of them, especially between like 82 and 85. He has countless times, hasn't he? He has faced death. Oh, well, yeah, no, not like this. Okay. Forgot about that part. Yes, he's cheated death. Isn't that the same as facing it? I don't. By the way, there is a trope, I don't know if you've noticed, in part twos of movies, especially if they've got big themes like they're sci-fi or superhero movies, that in the second movie the hero must inevitably in the second movie lose something, their youth, their superpowers. There's the hero needs to have like significant doubt in the second movie. That's like a trope that you'll find in a lot of movies. Spider-Man, for example, he loses his powers. Superman 2, he loses his powers. Even in like the French Connection 2, the main character succumbs to heroin addiction and has to be detoxed. And there's like this big struggle with his kid. It's like a lot of that in part twos of things. I don't know. I'm the only one that noticed that, but I'm sure it's been discussed in some groups. Awkward hug. Yes, they do pick up the crew of the USS Reliant. I knew that was in there somewhere. This is all hints now, like hint after. He's really not dead as long as we remember him, or as long as there's a sequel, and he wants to come back. You gotta let him direct, though. You gotta let him direct. So that ties back to the Tale of Two Cities book that McCoy that did McCoy give him that? But yeah, this is the last line of that book. And I like how Carol doesn't know what it is. Like not everybody knows that line and where it's from. They say A Tale of Two Cities has the most famous opening lines and closing lines of all time in literature. The opening, best of times, it was the worst of times, and then the end is this is a far better thing that I do, far better place that I go, blah blah blah. Anyway, I also love how this is the first in a, I guess, unofficial Star Trek trilogy. So this bleeds directly into Search for Spock, picks up right where that left off, and then The Voyage Home picks up where three leaves off. It's kind of cool. It kind of wraps it up then, and then five is a different thing altogether. And then you get the Nicholas Meyer treatment in six, which is their swan song. I don't really count Generations because it's a TNG movie, but yeah, a great string of films. And they had no idea after this that they would be making so many more. Leonard Nimoy suspected at first that he probably will never be back. He didn't want to come back. He thought that was it, but then they had second thoughts. They brought him back in Search for Spock. Leonard Nimoy's voiceovers, that last bit of hope to give to the poor audience who were very sad and didn't know. Of course, when I saw this as a kid, I'd already seen Six, so I knew he wasn't dead for good. And I'm pretty sure I became quickly aware of the Search for Spock and Wrath of Khan and stuff. The last two TOS movies that I ever saw were, like for the first time, I mean, were Voyage Home and the motion picture. And then the first Star Trek movie that I ever saw in a theater was Generations. And I haven't missed one since. All right. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, live long and prosper.